So you're starting your first year in music school, or you're considering going to university for music, or maybe you're in the middle of your music degree and you're just still trying to figure things out. Well, my name is Ernesto and I graduated from the University of North Texas College of Music back in 2021. And here's a list of a few things that I wish I had known a little earlier in my music school career that would have made my time a little easier and a little less stressful. Let's get started. Okay, so the number one tip that I have on my list, and this is actually the advice that I give to almost anybody who's going to university for the first time, regardless of the degree they're going into, is learn how to use a calendar and a task manager. So if you're going into music school, odds are that you're in high school now, so you're already used to having a schedule that's been planned out for you. It's the same every single week for multiple weeks in a row. Maybe if you're in an extracurricular like band or orchestra or choir or something, all of your friends are in it too, and so you guys just, you know the schedule. In college though, this is certainly not the case because every single class is at different times of the day for different people, and the class might not even meet every single day of the week, maybe twice a week, maybe 3 times a week, but no more than that. So especially for you, you might have a unique class schedule compared to your close group of friends as well. So you have to be able to write down and be able to visually see what your schedule is week to week. So what I did was I just used the default calendar app on my iPhone and added every single class that I have throughout the week, and then have that repeat weekly. Any breaks or anything that needed to be changed, I would go in and just delete the specific times for those days. Otherwise, my own schedule I could see and I knew where I needed to be when I needed to be there. Similarly, a task manager or any kind of to-do list will help you manage all of the things that you need to get to. So making sure that you know to finish your music theory homework and practice your oral skills and practice your instrument or study for your music history exam. Every single task that you need to do, I would write down. Especially if you're like me and you just forget things. Writing them down as soon as I think of them just helps me a ton. I always say the brain is great for coming up with ideas, not for storing them. So write down what you need to do, then check it off once you're done. It can be physical on paper, it can be on your phone or on your computer. I happen to like it on my phone because then I just have it with me wherever. Whatever works for you though, just get used to it, get used to checking these things, and then you'll have a much easier time through the rest of your college career. Or even if you're not a music student, this will really help you. Number 2, this is some advice I got in my first year at university, which was, if you're not busy, something's probably wrong. As in, there were just a lot of things that we needed to go to. In my music education degree, I had to be at marching band rehearsal most evenings of the week. As a percussionist, I had 2 lessons to prepare for every single week on 2 different instruments. Homework, maybe you're working as well. Practicing, did I say that already? Socializing with friends, keeping up with your reading assignments, keeping up with your just various things. You're going to be very busy. If you find yourself in a spell of a prolonged amount of time where you are not doing anything, that could be an indication of a red flag that something is probably wrong. Now, I don't mean this to say that you should only be working all the time and not give yourself any leeway or any breaks at any point. Just be careful because there are a lot of things to do. Use your calendar, use your task manager, make sure you're on top of the things that you need to be on top of. And if you're certain that you now have a little bit of time to chill and play on your Nintendo Switch 2 with all of your friends, then that's great. Great for you. Number 3, how to practice. This took me a little while for me to figure out the best practice routine for myself. Like I mentioned, I had 2 different instruments to practice on for my weekly lessons with my professors each week. So I would split my time like this. I would work on each instrument about 1 hour every single day. So maybe I'll work on marimba for an hour in the late morning, like around 11 a.m. And then I'll have an opportunity to practice my drum set at around 3 p.m. So for my hour of practicing on the marimba, I would organize it like this. 15 minutes warming up, and playing exercises, going through maybe melodic or harmonic exercises, music theory exercises like scales and different modes and arpeggios and whatnot, and maybe working on technique and chops and whatnot. Then I would spend another 15 minutes working up, say, my sight reading or some other kind of technical skill. If you're unsure what kind of technique to practice on your instrument, I think sight reading is a great thing to practice. Just get any random sort of sheet music. I find Baroque era music to be just simple enough to be able to read on the spot and interesting enough that it isn't like the easiest thing ever. I find that good for sight reading practice. Do that for 15 minutes, set a metronome, adhere to your metronome, make it really, really slow and just practice reading. And then for the last half hour, I would practice my repertoire or anything that I needed to prepare for my lesson of the week or to perform in any of the ensembles that I was in as well. Additionally, and this is something they really encouraged us for our own practice sessions, was to plan out our goal for the practice session beforehand and to think of what to do the next time that I was going to practice on the instrument. So you could say, oh, I'm really bad at this certain kind of technique, so I'm going to work on that for 15 minutes during my dedicated 15-minute technique or sight reading time. And I really need to figure out this passage on my etude because it's not very good right now. Whatever that is for you, plan that out beforehand. It's not a good idea to just play what you're good at over and over again. That's not an effective practice session. That's not the point of a practice session. Practice session is to make the things that aren't as good about as good as the things that you are good at. That makes sense. Number 4. This is something I figured out maybe like my sophomore, junior year. Don't practice when you're hungry. I would try to stack up my practice hours one after the other. Maybe like marimba from 1 hour and then the next hour move to snare drum or something like that. Most of my classes ended around noon or like 11:30 in the morning most days. So I would try to get my practice in at the end of that. I found that I could not have a productive rehearsal if I was hungry. So before my second practice session later in the day, I would go to the Union and, I don't know, have some Chick-fil-A or something like that. I just found that I would have a much more productive session if I was not hungry. Number 5, and this is a big one. Remember what you're there for. What I mean by that is, at my university, every single week there were multiple performances and concerts held by different ensembles or solo recitals, or clinicians would come in and give master classes or workshops or clinics on certain aspects of music, either in your own instrument or in different instruments. There was always something going on at UNT that anyone can go and check out. And sometimes I had friends kind of like blow a lot of that off, or like, oh, I don't want to go to that. I, would rather stay home and do whatever. And I would think to myself, you have to remember what you're there at music school for. And that's to get exposed to all of these different ways of thinking and meeting new people and getting to build your network and receive information from masters that the university sort of allows you the space to do. Going to something like music school, going to university in general, is a big sacrifice for a lot of people. It costs a lot of money. There's a lot to figure out. It's very scary. Make the most of your time there and get out what you want and more. Join the ensembles, join the clubs, join the marching band, get connected, get to know everyone in your field, because these people do really end up being the people that you end up working with after the fact years later, and you never know how that pops up again. You can get a lot out of university if you really put in that time and effort into getting all that out. Number 6. This is also a super important one, and I want this one to like really sink in for some people. It's okay to change your mind. Going into a music degree is very specific. Maybe sometimes people have a certain idea of what it's going to be like, and then it turns out not being that thing that you thought it was going to be. I've known a lot of people just feel just great anxiety that they're stuck in the degree that they chose. To me, this may not be the case for everybody, but to me, it's okay to change your mind. especially, in the first or second semester of music school, you think, man, this is not for me. I don't get music theory, or I hate practicing my instrument, or anything like that. I had friends sometimes that, after a little bit, would decide that they wanted to switch degrees from music to something else. Maybe something else that interested them more, or was different, or they thought that they could see themselves have a better future in, like computer science or finance or something like that. And we would be talking, and they would say to me, I'm gonna drop out of the degree, I'm gonna move on to something else, or I'm going to just go back home and work, or whatever it is. I would almost always congratulate them. I would say, congratulations, man, that's great. It's great that you figured that out, because not everyone, A, either comes to that realization, or B, comes to that realization and has the courage to say something, either to their parents or to their peers or to anybody that they feel that they need to prove something to, maybe. Again, it can be a big topic, because a lot of people can sacrifice a lot in order to get into university. But we make these decisions when we're so young, around 18, 19 years old, to get into something for the rest of our lives that just isn't practical. It's okay to change your mind. Figure out that it's not for you. That's a great place for you to be in, because some people just don't figure out what they would rather be doing. What I mean to say is, just don't be afraid to change your mind and say, this isn't for me. That's okay. It's my life. I must do what feels right to me to do. Don't feel stuck. Okay, my last tip is show up. I can think of so many serendipitous moments where I think, man, if I just had not shown up to class that one particular day that this one thing happened, I don't know how my life would be now. I remember going to class one day and sitting down minutes before the class starts, and in walks in composer Bruce Broughton, and I flip out silently there in my seat, because I knew exactly who he was. I knew that he was a big-time film composer and educator. That's exactly the kind of thing that I had wanted to go into. And I stay a few minutes after our class with him, and I go up to him and I say, hi Bruce, my name is Ernesto, really like what you do. I just wanted to introduce myself. My professor graciously introduced me to Bruce as well, because they were friends, and we got to talking. Apparently he was giving private lessons to some students in the university. They mentioned that I should talk to so-and-so to set up a lesson with him. It was clear to both him and me that I did not know what I was doing in the stuff that I was showing up with. But then in the summer, I started taking more lessons with him, because I reached out and I said, is there a possibility that I could take private lessons with you? And he said yes, and continued on for years. I've since become really good friends with Bruce. I've been to his house in California. Every time I see him, we go out to lunch, and he asks me about me and my endeavors. And it's I just think back to how that stems from me going into class that one day. Even before that, how I got into that class was just asking a question to my drum set professor, and he recommended me to talk to who, and all these different just decisions and life paths that set you on a course. It's so unexpected where these things take you, and the very least that you have to do is to show up. Just show up, be there. That's half the battle, honestly. Practicing on your own in a room is so foreign to a lot of people before they go into university. It's necessary in order to get better at your instrument so that you can continue to grow and progress, go further. But it can be difficult for a lot of people to self-organize themselves so that they can firstly schedule out their practice sessions and adhere to that schedule as well. That's why learning to use a calendar is super important. And it can feel like such a slog some days to I have to go and practice my instrument. It's not fun practicing something that I'm, not good at, a certain passage or whatever it is. Sometimes you just don't want to do it. Half of the battle is just showing up. Just walk into the practice room, take out your instrument, pull out your sticks, whatever. You'll be surprised how much further you get just by doing the simple act of showing up. maybe you don't commit 100% to the thing while you're there, but showing up is 50% at the very least, and that can get you really, really far. So show up, seriously. Okay, so there's just a few things that I thought of that I wish I would have known in college. Right before I got in, I figured some of this stuff during some of these things after the fact, but I hope this was helpful to you. If you have any tips for anyone, then leave them down in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, take care.